What's up, guys? KAMIKAZE-FOX coming to you from the highly anticipated SRL Season 4 Formula 1 League on the PS4 platform. Getting ready to rock and roll here. We've already got some guys chiming in on the live chat. Lewis Marshall, Renee Van der Stappen, and Yo Marusic all chiming in, saying hi. And welcome to Season 4. This is going to be the German Grand Prix Round 1. And new season, new names, new faces. Couple of things to try and get used to with the new game. So we'll try and run down the driver order and see who I got and who I don't. Quickly off the top of my head, we've got Sandro Dulius in the Scuderia Ferrari. Joey FY is Yo Marusic. Gamer Freak is Renee Van der Stappen. Praga X30's Lewis Marshall. Crocodile Bill is the fabled Cameron Weston Edwards. Good to see him back in a car. We'll talk about him in a little bit. Little Piece is Jorge Carrera. Dion Stahl in the other Ferrari. S113K3R is Nick Van Gelder. CSR Billy is, and I'm going to butcher this name, is Vasilios Belistiosis. Something like that. Sounds like a medical condition. SRL Sam is Sam Brandt. Widowmaker is Mr. Jan Holm returning. And, of course, I'm KAMIKAZE-FOX, your commentator. A couple of guys I didn't catch. The Just Games, and I will try and run down. That is going to be Fons van Houten in the Mercedes. Mr. Arc 15. And I will try and locate him here. We are looking at... no idea who he is. Sorry about your luck there. Apparently I don't have that information. And we still continue to wait for a couple of other drivers to join in. But let's see, we've got Beastie Kids. That is Louis Quinlan joining in. We're still waiting for a couple of drivers to join. So, new season, new game. This is F1 2018 on the PS4 platform, and a couple of things have changed over last year. One of the things that you'll first notice is going to be the short qualifying session has been extended in the game from 12 minutes to 18 minutes. So, qualifying is going to be a little longer than normal. Give the drivers a little bit more of a chance to set some fast laps. We've got a couple of new drivers. Obviously, the new team here, the Fons van Houten. Been a little bit of talk surrounding him and the Mercedes Petronas. Looks like he might be a force to be reckoned with. You might notice a couple of guys missing, though. There's no Bart Catelda, your defending champion. There's no Killian Brady, who gave it a good run last year. And looks like we're getting ready to go set to run here for the short qualifying session. And we've got Sondre Sauerhog joining in on the live chat. He's running the IRL League. They kicked off their F2 season. Actually, they will be kicking off their F2 season today. And their F1 season will be kicking off tomorrow at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. You can catch me live streaming that one on the IRL YouTube page. I'll be commentating that one, that race tomorrow as well. So good to see Cameron Weston Edwards back in a car. Good to see Sam Brandt back in a car after his retirement last year. He retired back in November of last year, called it quits for the season. He made a one-off appearance and has decided to come back. So good to see him back in a car as well. So 14 drivers, 18-minute qualifying session. And Mr. Arc 15, unfortunately, is the only driver I don't have any information on. And for some reason, his gamer tag sounds familiar to me. I'm just going to check my IRL notes to see if I have it in there. because a lot of you guys do some crossover work between IRL and SRL. I feel like I have his name somewhere. Unfortunately, I do not. I know that gamer tag sounds familiar, but I don't know who Mr. Ark is. If anybody's got any insight into that, by all means, please let me know in the live chat. It looks like we got some of the guys starting to leave the pits. Jan Holm's the first one out. And he is on his out lap in the new Sauber Alfa Romeo. And I'm being told Mr. Ark is Ivan Una from Sandro Sarno. I don't have him in my notes. I have an Ivan Burrito. So some of the returning drivers, we'll run down the returning drivers from last year. Jan Holm, obviously, ran for Sauber last year. We've got Dion Stahl. He's still in the factory Ferrari. SRL Sam is still running the Haas. Jorge Carrera is still in the pits. And we have Jo Marusic, who didn't run the Red Bull last year. He's running it this year. Gamer Freak, that is Rene Venderstop. He ran in the Mercedes last year. He's now with the factory Renault team. Cameron Weston Edwards ran the Renault last year, but this year he's in the Sauber. He's teammates with Jan Holm. We'll talk a little bit more about him and what's going on with him here lately. Sandro is on his out lap, the factory Ferrari. Caution in Sector 3. Ivan Acuna apparently is Mr. Ark 15. And he is on his out lap in the Williams. So we'll pick up Jan Holm. He was the first car out on an out lap. Put up his lap time here. He's in Sector 3 currently. Lock up there on the right front. Comes out of the last corner. He's going to set the first time. 1:14.924. Holm had a rough season last year. Good-spirited fella. Does like to drive hard. Had a lot of bad luck last year. Quite a few DNFs. Actually led the league in DNFs at one point in his Sauber. So hopefully he'll be looking to put some points on the board this year. Make a little bit better headway in the championship. You see Louis Quinlan come across at a 1:19. I'm sure that's not his fastest lap. Pick up Ivan Kuna. He's still on fastest lap now. He was going to Sandro Dulius with a 1:12.673 as we are watching Ivan Kuna. The 16.4 in Sector 1. We've got a caution in Sector 2. Now we've got caution in Sector 2 and 3. You see, that was one of the McLarens there, it looked like. That is Quinlan who is going around. And Foons van Houten has gone to the top of the charts at the Mercedes. I'm sure we'll be talking a lot about him. He's 0.3 of a second faster than Sandro. Actually, 0.3 of a second faster than Dion Stahl, who set the second fastest time. Sandro drops to third on the charts with the 1:12.6. We'll pick Ivan Kuna back up. He's yet to set a time. We'll check in on Sam Brandt in the Haas. And again, cautions in Sector 2 and 3. Sam very slow coming out of that last corner. Here we pick up Jorge Carrera. He is in the other Mercedes, currently out on the, looks like the medium tires. And Carrera was running the Red Bull last year, has now switched over to Mercedes for this year. And we are going to pick up CSR Billy Vasilios Belastiotis. I'm just going to call him Vasilios because that's way easier than his last name. He's in the Sahara Force, India. Being told now Ivan Brito. It's not Ivan Kuna, it's Ivan Brito. I don't know who MR Ark is, Mr. Ark. Identify yourself. Oh, and he loses the back end coming out of the corner. That's going to cost him a bunch of time, and it's going to be hard to make that up. That was very early Sector 1. Loses the back end. He set the third fastest time at a 1:12.5. Foons Van Houten's the only driver to run a 1:12 flat. He can possibly break the 1:12 barrier, crack the 1:11s. 12 minutes to play in this qualifying session. Got some guys that have gone in, made a switch in their setup. Let's look back to Carrera. He's still out on the medium tires. Interesting qualifying strategy to run medium tires for a qualifying session. Another caution in Sector 3 now. Looking at Quinlan, he's the only driver that's really not, I mean, we've got some guys that have not set a time yet, but Quinlan, the time that he has set is way off the pace. We saw him struggle earlier. He had spun the car at the hairpin. And again, he comes across at a 1:19.676. So he's running laps, but he hasn't necessarily improved his time at all. Stick with him in the McLaren Renault this year. McLaren finally gave up on Honda after 3 dismal years, switch over to Renault, and lo and behold, no improvement. Quinlan out, going to try and set another time. Looks like he's still on the go pedal. The car looks fairly stable. Doesn't look like he's struggling that bad for grip, so not sure where the time lapse is, why he's not able to make time. Heads into the stadium section now. Stadium section is where Sebastian Vettel, unfortunately, his season, in my opinion, began to fall apart. You see Quinlan run very wide in that one corner. He's going to jump to 5th fastest. Now that's a proper time, 1:12.382. Puts him easily in contention. And now, oh my, and there you go. Cameron Weston Edwards at the top of the charts with a 1:11.990. First driver to crack the 1:12s. And Weston Edwards, who has been out of a car, dealing with some personal stuff. He was the owner of the IRL League, gave that up and handed it over to Sandre Sauerhog and myself, who have been running the Gran Turismo Sport and the F1 leagues. As I said earlier, they're kicking off their F2 and F1 season this weekend. So Cameron Weston Edwards has been out of a car since handing over the reins to Sandre. So it's good to see him run to the top of the charts. Dealing with some personal stuff at home, studying for exams, and dealing with school matters, so hasn't had the proper time to apply to running a league and running a website. So good for him to run to the top of the charts here. So realistically, your top 7 drivers, your top 7 drivers are separated by 0.6 of a second. The first driver outside of the 1:12s is Jure Marusic as he heads into the pits. Actually, a lot of guys heading into the pits now. We're going to pick up SRL Sam. That's Sam Brandt. He is yet to set a time. 7 minutes and 30 seconds to play. And he is one of 2 drivers who've yet to set a time. Lewis Marshall is leaving the pits now, go out on an outlap. He's the only other driver that hasn't set a time yet. As we watch Sam Brandt. And again, Sam back in a car after retiring November of last year. He did a one-off race, but back with Haas. Looking to put some points on the board this year. Coming out of the last set of corners, let's see what he can put on the board here. Going to come across 1:12.426, 7th fastest. So a lot of guys running in the 1:12s. This is a very close grid. And look at this. Vasilios to the top of the charts, 1:11.257. 0.7 of a second faster than Cameron Weston Edwards. Unbelievable time. Just when we were talking a little while ago that he'd be one of the few drivers to crack 1:11s, he's on the brink of cracking 1:10s. Going to caution in Sector 3. We're going to pick up Lewis Marshall, last driver yet to set a time, and he's proven to be very quick. This is Sam Brandt's teammate. And Marshall runs SRL and IRL, and I'm trying to remember which he ran in both. I want to say he ran a Sauber in one league and a Mercedes in the other. But Lewis Marshall, despite some internet issues last year, he's proven to be a very fast driver. Had a couple of wins, couple of poles, spread across both leagues. Watch him as he's going to head into the stadium section. Right there's the corner where Sebastian Vettel's season fell apart, in my opinion. Lost it there, went head first, and the season was downhill from there. Really lost it in Singapore, but we watched Lewis Marshall come across the line. 1:11.320 by Lewis Marshall. And the times keep on dropping. You've got 3 drivers now in the 1:11 range. And it is quite a spread. Vasilios with a 1:11.257 is your fastest. Jan Holm, your slowest at a 1:13.972. 5 minutes left to play in the session. So right now, Vasilios is in the pits, and it looks like Louis Quinlan has retired from the session, and I can't click on him to see if it was because of a wreck. But Vasilios has got the provisional pole for now. We just saw Lewis Marshall set a 1:11.320. Cameron Weston Edwards, 3rd fastest, followed by Funes van Houten. Sandro Dulius is your top 5 drivers. Dion Stalls to 6. Renee Vanderstapp 7. Quinlan has set the 8th fastest time, but has retired from the session. Sam Brandt is 9th, and Jor Marusic, your 10th fastest driver. Actually, Sam is now 10th fastest. Jor Marusic is going out on his outlap. Mr. Arc 15, we're just going to refer to this gentleman as Ivan. We're not 100% sure. It looks like that would be Ivan Brito, according to the SRL. And it does seem that Louis Quinlan had crashed out. We were unable to catch it, though. And Brito dives into the pits. So we'll pick up Nick Van Gelder. Van Gelder we haven't talked a whole lot about yet. He's running the Red Bull this year. He was with Renault last year. Joined mid-season. His first race was at a very wet and rainy Spa-Francorchamps last year, where he put on a drift display more than anything. He was the resident Ken Block of that race. Put on quite a spectacle in that race, and from there we thought he would have his first 3 races were all in the wet, and we thought he would be fairly good, have a fairly good season after his showing at Spa, but it was wet in Mexico, and in Mexico it was just a very, very dismal race for him. So we're going to pick up Sandro. He's about a 10th off the pace at the end of Sector 1. Clock's starting to run out now. Less than 3 minutes to go in the qualifying session. Got caution at Sector 1 and 2. Flags waving. Looks like it might have been a quick off-on. Sanders is actually starting to catch up to the back of one of the Haas's here through the stadium section. Looks like he's out on the ultra softs. The Haas is out on the softs. And Sandro has retired from the session. Looks like he is going to call it quits, and 5th is going to be good enough for him. Just as he was coming across the line. We'll pick up Koens van Houten, who is 2/10 down at the end of the first sector. Oh my, and CSR Billy, that is Vasilios, has just gone 1:10.992. And that is a time I'm going to say is probably not going to be matched here in the last 1 minute and 30 seconds of this qualifying session. That is an unbelievable time, 4/10 faster over Lewis Marshall. Try and pick up Koens van Houten. And he is 3/10 off at the second sector. Dion Stahl comes across at a 1:12.3, so he improves on his time, but puts him up to 7th. Right along with Dion, who's now 8th fastest. And here we go. Looks like Lewis Marshall going to come across the line. He'll have enough time to start one last hot lap, and we're going to stick with him to see what he can come up with. Second fastest so far, Vasilios, is the only driver in 1:10 range. He's won 1:10.992. 4/10 behind him is Lewis Marshall. And he's going to try and see if he can improve on that. He's up at the end of the first sector by 84 thousandths of a second. Rene van der Stapp has called it a day. He is 4th quickest as we continue to watch Lewis Marshall. Back end kicked out on him a little bit coming out of that hairpin. Marshall giving it his all. Dion Stahl calls it a day, and Marshall is still up 29 thousandths of a second quicker at the end of Sector 2 as he heads into the stadium section. And this is going to be a close one, folks. Last couple of corners, can he hang on? Ivan Brito's called it quits. Here comes Lewis Marshall. 1:11.271. He improves on his time, but not on the fastest lap, unfortunately. Vasilios is going to be your first pole sitter of the year. Lewis Marshall will be second. Nick Van Gelder comes across the line. He'll be starting 3rd. Got Yannick Lepenton chiming in on the live chat. Good to hear from Yannick. We've also got Captain Morgan chiming in. Hello to Captain Morgan. So here's your starting grid. You've got Vasilios starting on pole position, followed by Lewis Marshall and Nick Van Gelder. Cameron Weston Edwards in the Sauber. Dion Stahl outqualifies his teammate Sandro Dulius. Rene van der Stapp 6th. Jorge Carrero will be starting 7th. Sandro 8th. Koens van Houten is 9th. Louis Quinlan 10th, even though he crashed out. Sam Brandt 11th. Jo Marusic in 12th. Ivan Brito 13th. Jan Holm will be rounding out your 14 drivers for the day. And Vasilios has chimed in as well. And we have rain in the forecast for today, the great equalizer. So the question is, in regards to Nick Van Gelder, which Nick Van Gelder do we get? Do we get Spa-Francorchamps Drift King Nick Van Gelder, or do we get hellacious, horrible driver Nick Van Gelder from Mexico? rain has been his friend and his foe as of last year. Interesting to see. He is teammates with Jure Marusic. As we continue to wait for the other drivers to load in. Should be a formation lap. We got ourselves a 50% length race here today. And this is atrocious. You see the cars just skidding around. Vasilios is already having traction issues. Sam has decided to not partake in the formation lap. So there we have Vasilios Velociotis as your first pole sitter of season 4 here at SRL. And that is the Sandro Racing League. While there are many SRL leagues, there's only one Sandro Racing League. Lewis Marshall starting second on full wets. Nick Van Gelder third. Cameron Weston Edwards. And it'll be interesting to see with some of these new drivers like Vasilios and James Van Houten. It'll be Ivan Barrito. It'll be good to see who is going to present themselves as a Rennmeister in regards to the wet conditions. So going to be a 34 lap race to kick off this season 4 F1 2018 on the PS4 platform. It's been a long time coming. Season was originally supposed to kick off at the end of September. They had some delays, so they decided to kick it off this weekend. Grid is set. And we are go. Time to run what you brung. Oh, and look at this. Vasilios gives up the lead on the first corner. Lewis Marshall takes him on the inside. It looks like Vasilios had some traction issues. And look, it's diving down on the inside. It's Cameron Weston Edwards. He's taking over the third spot. Can't get the power down. Lewis Marshall still your leader. And here comes Cameron Weston Edwards. He's going to try the outside of Vasilios. Dives to the inside. Going to try and outbrake him. A little bit of a lock up on the front. It gets on the inside of him, puts the power down. The back end kicks out. And it's a three-way battle for second as Vasilios has dropped to third. He's all over the back. Oh, and around goes Cameron Weston Edwards. Oh, and he wrecks hard into the wall. Couldn't keep the back end together, unfortunately, and he's done for the day. Unfortunate turn of events. He was looking real strong through that first sector. So we pick up Vasilios again. He has now moved into second. Lewis Marshall is your leader. Take a look at Nick Van Gelder here. The cars look like they're starting to get spread out just a little bit now. A hectic first lap. Lewis Marshall, your leader, followed by Vasilios, who's followed by Rene van der Stapp. Nick Van Gelder is closing in on him. Louis Quinlan in the McLaren. He has got Jorge Carrera all over the back of him. Oh, and they touch. Left front to right rear. And Quinlan almost takes the grass, and he is in the grass, unfortunately. And Carrera finally gets himself set back on track. He's fallen all the way back to 10th as he was battling for 4th. Or 5th, I should say. So now we have Foons Van Houten in pursuit of Sandro Dulius for the 6th spot. Only a couple tenths of a second separating these two. Oh, and look at this. Quinlan is in the grass. Lost it in the stadium section. Oh, and now one of the Williams is off. That was Ivan Brito right behind him. And Quinlan having a hard time trying to keep control of that car. Brito's got, oh, and he looks like he might have just nicked his wing on the right rear tire. We're going to stick with this battle for a second here. Oh, and around goes. Oh, no, and another car down. Quinlan out, trying to get the power down. Back end kicks out, and he's into the wall. Very reminiscent of Cameron Weston Edwards' crash. We'll pick up the battle for 5th here now. Sandro Dulius trying to hold off Foons Van Houten. And Van Houten's going to take the inside line. That's going to be an easy pass for him. Slides the back end out. You see a 3-car battle behind that. This is the battle for 7th, ultimately. It's a 3-car battle. Oh, no, and one of the Williams goes around. This is Brito. Loses the back end. Manages to keep it off the wall, so he'll be able to continue on. He's going to back it up and get it back on track. And while this has all been going on, we've got a battle now for the lead as Vasilios has closed the gap down to Lewis Marshall. We'll give a shout out to Wart WB, who's chimed in on the live chat as well. Welcome to the live stream. So we watch this battle for the lead now. And look at this. Vasilios is going to try the outside. He's all over the back of Marshall. Oh, and he gives him a little bit of a love tap there. Vasilios late on the brakes around this hairpin. Tries to get the power down, but the back end kicks out on him, so Lewis Marshall's able to pull ahead a little bit. So we've got 2 cars down now. We've lost Cameron Weston Edwards and Louis Quinlan to crashes. Vasilios working the back end of Lewis Marshall's Haas, and we've got a safety car, Sam Brandt. Now, I won't be able to pick up what happened to him, but the safety car has been deployed. What I can only assume is a massive crash for Sam Brandt. So, quite an eventful opening 4 laps is what we're into so far. And we've lost 3 drivers already. The safety car has been deployed. Cameron Weston Edwards has expressed his displeasure with Vasilios, saying he has wiped him out. We had a good angle of it. It was hard to tell if there was any contact made or not on Vasilios' part. So hard to tell if Cam got any help being spun around and into the wall. And there is the safety car. And Jesperger9 chiming in. That is Jesper Lempinen, who unfortunately did not make today's race. But always good to hear from another driver. We started with 14 drivers a few laps ago. We're working lap 5 now of 34 here in the dreadful conditions. We've lost 3 drivers. Sam Brandt, the most recent one, crashed out, brought out the safety car. Louis Quinlan lost it shortly after crossing the line, trying to hold his position. The back end kicked out. Cameron Weston Edwards was the first driver to crash on the opening lap, possibly getting some help from Vasilios in the Sahara Force India. or is it just referred to as Force India now? I can't keep up with what's going on over there. So your running order is Lewis Marshall is still your leader. Followed behind him is Vasilios. Rene Vanderstappen has worked his way into third. Nick Van Gelder is fourth. Foons Van Houten got his way around Sandro Dulius for fifth. Sandro obviously would be sixth. Jorge Carrera, who has been up and down most of the day in the opening few laps, was battling for fourth. Ran into the grass, fell back to 10th. He's managed to work his way back into 7th. Jure Marusic has been fairly quiet, has worked his way into 8th. Jan Holm, who started dead last, has worked his way into 9th. He's heading into the pits. Ivan Brito had an on-off. He's 10th. And Dion Stahl bringing up the rear of what is left. And safety car is still out. And yes, Jesper, Sam had crashed out, unfortunately. We didn't get any footage of the crash, but Sam Brandt's crash is what ultimately brought out the safety car. So it's been quite an eventful opening few laps. And hopefully the safety car will be heading in here shortly. Possibly, safety car may very well be out due to the weather. Doesn't seem like the rain has let up at all. And with so many incidences in the few laps that we've run, maybe it'd just be best to settle things down for the moment. So SRL, like I said earlier, was set to kick off at the end of September. Ran into some delay issues, so they're finally kicking off their season today. The next round will be in a couple weeks in Austria at the Red Bull Ring. From there they head over to Sochi, and it looks like the safety car may be heading in. Lewis Marshall now. Safety car is going to head in. Lewis Marshall will be the control car. And they are all bunched up. And the top three are starting to pull away, and it looks like the safety car is in. We go green, and the top three pull away from the rest of the pack. Vasilios immediately starts working all over the back of Lewis Marshall again. Vanderstappen goes in real deep. Looks like he's going to lose a spot, maybe. We continue to watch this battle for the lead. Vanderstappen hangs on to third for now. He's got Van Gelder working on the back of him. Marshall's going to take the more defensive line. Oh, but look at this. Vasilios baits him. He gets on the inside. Can he get the power down? Marshall's got the wider arc, so he's going to be able to put the traction down a little bit better. Vasilios is losing the back end of the car. Marshall trying to hold off Vasilios. Rene Vanderstappen is just sitting and waiting for something to happen between these two and pounce when he can. And look at this move by Vasilios. He's now on the inside of Marshall. He's got a good run coming out of that corner. They head into the stadium section. Vasilios is now your leader. Marshall drops back into second. Vanderstappen is still there in third. Oh, and look at this. Van Gelder's back end kicked out on him as he came out of that last corner. So a little bit of separation now. You got Vasilios as your leader, Lewis Marshall running second, Rene Vanderstappen third, Nick Van Gelder is fourth. After that, you've got Foons Van Houten in fifth, Jorge Carrera sixth, Sandro Dulius seventh, Jure Marusic running eighth, Jan Holm Up to 9th, Dion Stahl is 10th. And Ivan Brito will round out your 11 remaining drivers. And look at this, Vasilios is now starting to pull away half a second over Lewis Marshall. But Rene van der Stappen going to be starting to close in now on the back of Lewis Marshall. Rene has proved to be very fast in the past. Guys are all spread out. Doesn't look like anybody's able to really gain any time over another driver. Vasilios just sets the fastest lap here in the wet at a 1:26.375. Is now pulled out to a 1.5 second lead over Lewis Marshall. Look at this, Van der Stappen lost the back end of the car. Van Gelder's going to be coming in now. He's on the outside. He can't make it work. He's going to try the crossover move. Crosses over again. He dives, dumps the left side wheels into the grass. And now they're going to be side by side. It's a drag race down to the end of the straight here. He's got the inside line, but can he get the power down without the back end kicking out on him to take the position? Van der Stappen's going to try the crossover. Not going to be able to get the power down, and Van Gelder is going to take third for now. So good set of corners there for Van Gelder to pounce on Rene van der Stappen's mistake, and it looks like that's really what you're going to have to do throughout the course of this race is wait for somebody to make a mistake and pounce on them. Vasilios is now pulled out to almost a 2-second lead over Lewis Marshall. And look at this now. We've got a battle between Funes van Houten and Jorge Carrera, the two Mercedes. It's a battle between teammates. And Van der Stappen is still working on the back of Van Gelder. And here's what it looks like to look out the halo, which I am not a fan of. Looks like we've got a battle back here. Looks like Jan Holm just lost a spot to Dion Stahl. That's going to put Stahl into 9th. We'll take a look back at Ivan Brito, who is back here all by his lonesome, 40 seconds behind the leader. Not even remotely close to Jan Holm. He's about 25 seconds behind him. Back to the battle for 5th now. Carrera all over the back of his teammate Van Houten. And that is Sandro Duilius starting to work his way into the picture as these two battle side by side. And around the outside goes Carrera. Power move to make that stick. And Sandro starting to close in on the two Mercedes. They head into the stadium section now. And again, Vasilios runs a 1:26.166. And Sandro now is all over the back of Funes van Houten. See if he can make this work going into this set of corners here. The rain has not necessarily let up at all. You can see a driving line, not necessarily a dry line, but you can see a driving line starting to appear on the track. But a lot of these cars have been so close together, it's not necessarily a dry line forming. The rain is still coming down way too hard to even remotely think about switching over to intermediates. Whether or not the rain lets up and there'll be a changeover, if you will, is yet to be seen. And it looks like Van Houten was able to pull away from Duilius a little bit, save himself that 6th position. And Vasilios is showing that he can be a Rennmeister as he's now pulled out to a 3.5 second lead over Lewis Marshall. And in the Haas. Nick Van Gelder solidly in third. He's a second and a half behind Marshall. We got Rene Vanderstappen, who's probably the closest driver, the closest battle essentially. Oh, look at this. Van Houten is going to dive into the pits. And let's stick with this for a second. See if he switches over to intermediates or if he keeps it on full wets. Oh, and he's going to swap out the front wing. So it looks like he might have had a little bit of wing damage, a new set of full wets, and he is back out. And he's going to be dropped to 10th. Ivan Brito has now been lapped. So a little bit of a grid reset. Vasilios is still your leader. About 4 seconds ahead of Lewis Marshall. He's about 2 seconds ahead of Nick Van Gelder. And then Van Gelder's about 2 seconds ahead of Rene Vanderstappen. He's about 2 seconds ahead of Jorge Carrera. Closest battle on track right now looks like it's going to be Dion Stahl, who is slowly starting to close in the gap to Jure Marusic. Behind Dion Stahl, you have Jan Holm. So the cars are all pretty much spread out at this point. Working lap 12 of 34. And it has been quite an interesting race. We've lost 3 drivers from the start. Cameron Weston-Edwards was the first one to go down. It looks like there's a debate whether or not he had a little bit of help from Vasilios as he crashed out. Louis Quinlan was the next driver to go down. And then Sam Brandt was the third driver to crash. And we've actually got Sam joining us now. Sam, what happened out there? We weren't able to catch it on the stream, but what happened to cost you your race?
It was in, I hope you can hear me, so, but,
I hope so too.
yeah, well, in turn 4, the turn that leads down onto the second DRS straight, I caught a puddle of water on one of the rear tires and I accidentally spun the car. I couldn't correct it in time, so, yeah.
The conditions look like they're just absolutely awful out there today. The rain didn't seem to let up at all.
No, but some drivers have reported that conditions are improving, but that might as well just be themselves heating up the tires a little bit more and getting used to the grip out there. So, as you say, I don't think the conditions are gonna improve at any point.
Yeah, we were discussing earlier, a couple minutes ago, that you can see a racing line starting to form, but not necessarily a dry line. It doesn't look like the rain has let up at all.
Oh, there is a line out there, but it's still covered in water, so yeah. It's still not ideal for any of the drivers out there right now. They have to be very, very gentle on the throttle, especially through turn 1 and turn 4.
We were watching the battle between Sandro Dulius and Jure Marusic for the 7th spot, closest battle on track. Sam, I know this isn't how you wanted to start out your season, but you got yourself a new teammate this year. You think you guys are going to be able to work a little better? As we watch Sandro dive to the inside, they make contact, and Sandro's going to power his way around on the outside and take the 7th spot away from Jure Marusic.
I have to correct you there. It's actually Dion Stahl instead of Sandro.
You are correct.
Sandro
that is correct.
So, but yeah, coming back to my teammate, I think we can do pretty good. Like, I don't like Germany. It's one of those narrow tracks, so it's not on my favorite list of tracks. It's down there with Monaco as well, so I don't like narrow tracks. So I think the time when I'm probably gonna shine and when he's definitely gonna shine is when we get to, yeah, some of the tracks are a little bit more open, a little bit more racing friendly than Hockenheim and also Monaco. So, yeah.
And it looks like we've just lost Ivan Brito, I believe. Mr. Arc 15. Not sure what happened there. He may have just decided to call it quits. He was a lap down, struggling with grip all day. So we've lost 4 drivers now.
So at this point, it's just going to be running for the points. It's about how many points you can score, because no matter if you DNF or anything from here, you well, you will grab at least 1 point.
So the cars are all kind of spread out. Vasilios is still your leader by 6 seconds over Lewis Marshall in the Haas. Nick Van Gelder is actually starting to close the gap to him a little bit, running for third. Behind him is Rene van der Staap. Jorge Carrera is in fifth. Sandro Dulius is sixth, after I've been corrected. And Dion Stahl is the one that took over Jurma Rusic for seventh. Jan Holm is ninth. And he's
actually closing.
He's
closing.
closed the back to Jurma Rusic, which is a little surprising.
So he will be looking to get some really good points off the start of the season here. See what he can do. But unfortunately, his teammate crashing out, so he's the only Alfa Romeo Sauber out there right now. So
yeah, it was too bad about Cameron Weston-Edwards. It was good to see him in a car again. Had a really good qualifying session. Unfortunately, there's some debate on whether or not he had some help being put into the wall by Vasilios. So it'll probably be reviewed after the race. But,
yeah, I can't, unfortunately, I cannot give you my point of view because I was still in the car at that point and I was nowhere near them when it happened, so, yeah.
But Jan Holm putting on a good display. Jan doesn't exactly have a great history as far as good finishes. He led the league last year in DNFs, unfortunately. But good for him.
Himself a 3-second penalty there, unfortunately, cutting the first corner. So
cut that corner very deep, trying to get by Jurma Rusic here. It looks like he might be struggling a little bit for grip.
But still, if Jura can keep within 3 seconds of Jan, then it's no good use for Jan as he makes the move now.
He's going to dive down to the inside here at the hairpin.
And
looks like they're going to rub wheels a little bit. And Jan pushes him wide, gets the power down. He does manage to make the pass. Gave him a little bit of a shoulder check. But as Sam said, he does have a 3-second time penalty. So he's going to have to pull out at least 3 seconds. But he runs wide as he dumps the right side tires into the grass there, coming out of the corner. So Jura is going to be looking to try and make the move back to regain that 8th spot. Right now, this is your closest battle on track.
Might as well also be one of the most exciting battles because not a lot of people know this. As you said, Jan doesn't have a very rich history in SRL. He joined last season, but he is still a very good driver, to say the least.
Well, the one thing I can say for Jan is that he's more of a gentleman driver than I think a lot of guys give him credit for. He doesn't cause a lot of controversy with his races, and generally, usually when he unfortunately has a DNF, it's usually him by himself and not the cause of a massive crash. So give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, and also with other drivers, usually, or we haven't seen it so far at least, that he has caused a collision with another driver DNFing from it. So, as you said, he is a gentleman driver. And unfortunately, a lot of times, gentleman driver is being portrayed as being an elderly driver, but not very fast, but he is still very fair. And I just have to say to you, that's not the case, actually. He is very fast.
And he has actually pulled out 2+
makes
seconds.
A mistake.
Oh, but he's gone off.
Yeah. So it drops to 1.5 seconds. It looks like Jura does he have wing damage or anything? Because he's struggling very much.
It does look like he was struggling for grip a couple laps ago. If he's got any wing damage, it has to be from a prior battle.
I think
looks like
he
all
might
the
have
end plates there, but it's hard to tell.
It's very no. He has wing damage because some of the end plates on the right side of his wing is missing. So
he dives into the pits.
I wouldn't expect it to. Yeah, you go ahead.
Some other guys diving into the pits as well.
Yeah, so that's.
And actually, we've got a battle for the lead as Rene van der Staap has taken the lead. Looks like this is due to a pit sequence. And Vasilios is going to make the move on the inside of Rene van der Staap.
And I think that's Cameron that has joined us in the commentary as well.
Yes, we do have Cameron Weston-Edwards with us. So Cam, we've talked about you a little bit today. You had some choice words for Vasilios. It was hard to tell if there was any actual contact. What's your take on your on your wreck? Maybe he's having technical difficulties.
Looks like it.
But Vasilius has now gotten back around Rene van der Staap to retake the lead after the pit sequence.
I think we have Cameron with us right now.
And it looks like Rene is going to head into the pits as well.
Yeah, so that gives second place back to Lewis Marshall. And
behind him, Nick Van Gelder's going to be.
And here we have Cameron on the line right now. So,
Cam, are you with us?
Yeah.
What's your take on what happened earlier for your wreck? You had some choice words for Vasilius on the live stream, or the live chat, I should say. What's your take on what happened?
Well, I was coming through the kink after the hairpin, having made a good start on fourth. Received a punt in the left rear from the Force India, which just spammed me straight into the wall.
Yeah. I think I was at the back of that pack when, was it turn 4 you said?
No, it was the kink after the hairpin, so that is turn 5 or turn 6.
Okay, yeah. Because I have to admit, I did actually hit a Force India. I tapped him on the rear, but that was into turn 3, so that was not the case. That was not a chain reaction.
No, I was just going through the corner and just got swiped in the left rear.
But we have a battle on track right now between Jan Holm and Jorge Correa. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his last name, but yeah, I might have butchered that.
It's all good. So Carrera is working all over the back of Jan Holm, and Holm's going to run a little bit wide and open the door for Carrera.
Oh, and he's spun.
Oh, and he touches him, and Holm is off. Oh, and he's crashed and broken the front wing.
But he's not out.
He's not out. Though. That's a shame.
He's back on track right now.
Holm was having such a good run. He's got no downforce at this point. He's got to go into the pits.
Yeah.
Dion Stahl has just left the pits.
But that was very unfortunate because he had such a great run in the race so far. So very unfortunate for the Dane. What would the closest battle be right now? I think
it's going to be Sandro Dolia is probably closing in on the back of Jorge Carrera. That's still about a 2-second gap.
That would be the closest.
Vasilius has a massive 11-second lead almost over Lewis Marshall for second place. Van Gelder's 4 seconds behind him. 6 seconds behind, that's Rene van der Staap. You're currently looking at 5th and 6th. This is Sandro trying to catch up to Jorge Carrera for the 5th spot. The next closest battle again would be a Ferrari and a Mercedes, which you've seen a lot of that this year in real life. But you've got Dion Stahl starting to close the gap to Foons van Houten.
Yep. And this is like, it's not unusual to see Ferraris and Mercedes battling, but to see it so far down the field, that's kind of unusual. But we're not keeping the realism from the real world here in SRL, so...
That's probably for good reason. I mean, if there's one thing I can say about the SRL and even the IRL that I commentate for, the racing is on par. I mean, and I think that's what viewers want to see is good racing, not necessarily, one guy. I mean, unfortunately, one guy here is running away with the lead,
but still,
you don't get to see the type of racing in real Formula One that you get to see in SRL. And you guys proved last year that even with a few cars on track, there was a couple races, I think Singapore was one of them, where the car count was relatively low, but the racing was, on par. So, the quality of racing is what I think SRL is more about than the quantity of how many cars and how many races you can actually do.
Yeah, that's true. And to be fair, though, we talk about quantity of cars on track, but we still have we had 14 cars starting the race. We could have had 15 if Francis McGinn had made it today. And that's only like 5 cars away from a full grid. So we're not far off, but still, as you say, it's the quality and not the quantity.
Yeah, and it was too bad Francis didn't make the race today. He did say he thought it was a half past the hour, but I mean, Francis has got a little bit of a history as well. I mean, he won in Season 2, and that's actually when Francis made his debut, was in Season 2 for SRL. Yeah. So he was in his Toro also.
Yeah.
So, and looks like Batfink, who I'm not familiar with, was your Season 1 winner. And ironically, Season 1 and Season 2 were both in Germany, were both wet races, and here we are again.
Yeah, that was the one we were. That was the one the drivers were talking about before the race as well, when qualifying has just ended. That, like, it was kind of unusual to see. Like, we had one in Season 2 where we had Germany for last time, then it was raining, and now today when we have it for the first time back again, it's raining as well. So it's the same conditions. I do believe that in Season 2 it was intermediates rather than full wets, but it was still tricky conditions to race in.
And unfortunately, it looks like we're as late as we're working lap 22 of 34, and it doesn't look like the rain has let up at all. There's probably going to be very little chance of a changeover to any type of intermediates or even dry tires. We continue to watch Sandro try and catch and close the gap up to Jorge Carrera. It's still about a second and a half.
He's not really closing. He is. He's closing in the corners, but on the straight, Jorge is able to pull a gap again.
I think Jorge's actually able to get his power down a little better than what Sandro is. Sandro looks like the Ferrari's struggling for a little bit of grip coming out of some of these corners. But Jorge just picked up a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. So
he has to...
He's either got to pull the gap, or he's going to lose the position at the end of the race regardless.
So he has to pull out a 1.5 second gap right now, because he is just about 1.5 seconds in front of Sandro. If he's able to do it, he is going to keep the position, and that would be probably the ideal thing for him. To just try and do it fair and square, and not try to battle Sandro, and then it might end up in a collision. I'm not saying that, of course, he is a dirty driver, but we have seen some of that before.
These type of conditions, though, I mean, it's almost unpredictable. You know, just trying to get on the throttle a split second too soon coming out of a corner, and you've lost the back end. It's usually nothing with malice, but it, you know, unfortunately because of the conditions, something like that can definitely happen and end in tears for the two drivers.
Yeah, and it's also like different. It's very difficult for a driver when you've done a qualifying in the dry and you've become like you've set yourself up for a dry race, and then you have to change your mindset because you can't plant the power as fast as you would in the dry, and you're just going to spin out. And that's unfortunately what happened to me. I could imagine that's also what maybe have happened to Louis Quinlan in the McLaren. I'm not sure what happened with him, but it's very difficult.
Yeah, Quinlan's incident was very reminiscent of Cameron's. And again, that'll probably be reviewed a little bit after the race. I mean, Cam is making the claim that he was punted by Vasilios, but it very well could have just been, you know, power getting down too early, or, you know, possibly trying to run a little harder at the beginning of the race.
Pushing the car a little too far, trying to go for that extra meter on the dive bomb, which wouldn't work, but would give you the position if it actually worked. But you know, it's all in the instinct of a racing driver that you have to go for a gap that exists. Whether or not it existed, the gap, I don't know. But as Cameron said, he didn't frame Vasilios for anything. He didn't mean it was intentional. So I think it's going to end out with, if not just a warning, then a very, very light penalty.
And we continue to watch Sandro, and Sandro looks like he's struggling for grip a little bit. Not able to really close that gap.
But at the same time, we see Jorge, he's not able to pull the gap, the 3-second gap that he needs.
Exactly. These two are pretty much stuck in limbo, it seems like.
Yes.
So we'll check up front with the leader, who is running all by his lonesome, about 12.5 seconds ahead of Lewis Marshall. Marshall tried to put up a good battle. He led early on in the race, but was unable to hold off Vasilios. And, you know, you did some preseason testing with all these drivers. I mean, do you feel... I mean, last year we saw Killian Brady and Barcatelda were definitely the two to beat. I mean, is there a driver that stands out in your mind in the preseason testing that is going to be the guy to, you know, take the title? Or are we going to have a...
I wouldn't say that...
Yeah,
I wouldn't say there's a guy that's 100% like you say that's the guy that we go for the title. I would rather say there is a guy who could be very likely to... there are drivers who would be very likely to take the title, because I don't think I can pinpoint one driver at this point. It's very early in the season, and as you said, we did preseason testing and it was very, very close actually. So at this point, it's between, I think, the two Force Indias. I would like to say both Haas driver, me and Lewis, but if not both of us, then definitely Lewis. Probably also Funs, and maybe also Nick. I think there's a lot of contention for the title this year, and it's in the end, I think it's gonna be who has the most luck, who can make the races, who can finish the highest, I think.
Yeah, it looks like luck is already one of those things that has already played a factor, as we mentioned earlier, with Francis McGinn not being able to make the race.
Indeed.
Unfortunately, and that is some bad luck there. Francis McGinn proved to be very fast last year. Finished, I think, third in the points. Had a couple of wins, finished on the podium a lot. Looks like one of the Haas's. Oh no, that's Jorge Carrera lost the car, and Sandro's going to make the pass, and Carrera is falling back into sixth.
Whoa, we missed that completely, did we?
Well, we had the camera set to Sandro as he was trying to close in the gap, and Jorge looks like he struggled with the corner there and lost the back end, and had gone around.
I think he has front wing damage.
He's got his end plates on the left side is gone, and here comes the other Mercedes. That's going to be his teammate, Funes Van Houten. Followed closely behind him is Dion Stahl, and I imagine Jorge.
And is he going into the pits?
Yeah, he's dived into the pits.
It would be stupid to do anything else, in my opinion.
So we pick up another Mercedes-Ferrari battle. This one's going to be Dion Stahl and Funes Van Houten. But it looks like Dion just picked up a 3-second penalty. So if he doesn't get around, Funes, it's not going to be worth the battle. So Jorge,
out of the blue, we have a battle all of a sudden when we were just drifting into a conversation, and it's like things happen when it's wet. Like one driver lost it, and now we have a battle for what would that be, 6th position?
Yeah, it's still the battle for 6th. It's just a different Ferrari and different Mercedes. But Dion does have that 3-second penalty, and look at this. Rene Vanderstappen has picked up another 3-second penalty as well. So that's 2 that I have by his count. Oh, and look at this. The Funs has gone wide and went off the track, and now Dion is all over the back of the Mercedes. And he's going to get the toe.
Very far behind. So
look at this. He dives to the inside.
Oh,
that was close.
He went for it. But he couldn't complete the move.
Now, the stadium section is not a good place to try and make a move. It's very narrow. You see, it looks like he backs off a little bit.
He will probably be looking to make it into either turn 2 or turn 5. Depends on how he gets the traction down out of turn 1. And of course, no DRS because of the rain, so yeah, it's all down to the power of the car.
And turn 1 has been really the site today where everybody's been called out for corner cutting heading into that turn 1 right-hander. Well, it looks like he got the power down pretty good there. He closed the gap a little bit to Van Houten.
It looks like Funs, when he comes out of turn 4, he is just sliding a little bit. He is controlling the car, but he's getting that little bit slide on. It might hurt his tires in the long scheme of things.
Looks like Dion Stahl's actually able to catch up under the braking. And 5 laps left to go. If Dion's going to make a move, he's got to make it soon, and he's also going to have to pull out a 3-second gap to retain that position. Very close.
But so far this season,
Go ahead.
But so far this, the qualifying at least, was very, very close. So I think we have a good season in store for us, in terms of racing.
Well, this has been a very good race so far. A lot of stuff taking place. And you see the twitch there from the Mercedes to the S's.
And he is sliding a little bit when he comes into slow
Dion's
corners.
got a good run coming out of that corner.
He's not going to be able to make it into turn 1. I don't think so, at least. No, he's going to wait for him. Maybe he's closer now than he was before. So maybe he's going to set it up for turn 5. The hairpin.
Cilio's just picked up a 3-second penalty. That's going to be inconsequential to his race. He's 15 seconds ahead of Lewis Marshall.
Instead of 15, it's just going to be 12 seconds. It's just cosmetics at this point.
Look at this. He's going to try and dive bomb him.
Oh!
He gets in there.
Oh, he went for it.
A little bit of contact. Van Houten pushes wide. And now they're side by side. Oh, and Van Houten hangs on to it.
Oh, great racing. And he goes for it again. Oh, he has to back out a bit.
Oh, that was a very tight corner. He cut that one very close.
Looks like Dion has lost a little bit of... needs to find his feet again, like...
Yeah, the rhythm got a little disrupted there.
So...
An interesting take on Dion Stall, because Dion and Sandro have now been teammates now for, what is this, the 3rd year in a row that they've both been teammates?
No, fourth
year in a row. I mean...
It would be.
There seems to be a lot of shuffle during the off-season. Guys want to change cars and want to change teammates. I mean, I know you've been in the Haas for quite some time, but why is it Dion and Sandro have always been... Oh, and he gives him a little bit of a love tap there.
Yeah, they're going hammer and tongue right now. They want that position.
But why is it Sandro and Dion have always stayed the same, and most of the other league has just shuffled year to year?
Oh, he goes for it. Oh, and that was a double move. Is that I don't actually remember if that's legal, but I would imagine it is, since we don't run with that rule, I think.
I was going to say, it might not be legal in real life, but...
but we don't go by real life rules. This is part of the reason.
Oh, look at this! Oh, he's got some wing damage now. They both push wide.
And it's ended in pieces. Oh, no.
The end plate's on the right front.
Well, that...
See if Dion can hang with him at all. A little bit of lack of downforce, and I'm sure going to hurt him in some of these high-speed corners.
If he is quick right now to get to the pits, he might be able to pick up the battle with Jorge and actually get that position. He is 18 seconds in front of him. No, he doesn't.
He's going to stay out.
He's going to try and win it on track. But as you asked us about, or asked me about, and he
that was close. That was close.
Massive tank slapper coming out of turn 1. That was close.
the battle's not done, because now it looks like Van Houten is starting to have some issues trying to get the power down. The back end just kicked out coming out of that corner. He hasn't necessarily pulled away from Dion.
Might be wondering if his tires are starting to go off.
It's going to be a long 2.5 laps for Van Houten.
But then again, Dion has a 3-second penalty he has to drag out, so...
This is true.
But at this point, Van Houten doesn't know that, I would believe. He doesn't know that Dion has a penalty.
True.
So for him, it's just about keeping the position. But let's hope that there is a breathe room that right now. So you asked me the question about Dion and Sandro and the Ferrari dream team and everything.
Or dream team, and Dion is off into the gravel.
Oh,
That is, we'll pick up Jorge Carrera because he'll be able to close the gap. Now the question is does Dion pit? Or does he stay out one more time?
Pit.
And when he runs very wide coming out of that corner. So at this point, Jorge Carrera is actually 10 seconds behind, but the pace at what Dion is running and trying to run, Jorge may be able to close that gap.
If that's the thing, if Jorge is able to close 7 seconds, more than 7 seconds, he's got Dion because of the 3-second penalty.
That's true too. He only needs to pick up 7 seconds and not the whole 10.
And that the only driver who knows about that right now is Dion, so he will be looking to push the car absolutely maximum to not get within that, 3-second window there. And I believe with just over 2 laps, or just over, 2 laps left for Dion, I think he might have this one if he doesn't bottle it again. It's saying that running without a front wing, or running with front wing damage in the rain is not ideal at all, by any means.
Oh, and he runs very wide coming out of that corner. And he just picked up another 3-second time penalty. So he is definitely falling into the clutches of Jorge Carrera at this point.
Jorge, at this point, he only needs 3 seconds more than he has Dion for.
I think at this point, Dion really needs to just calm down.
Yeah.
And just try and run his race.
But then again, if he does calm down, if he stays within track limits, I think that's the problem with his car right now. If he stays within track limits, he's going to fall. He's going to lose those golden 3 seconds to Jorge Correa. As you can already see now, it's down to 7 seconds. 7.6, 7.2. So it's dropping. So I could not imagine that Dion is going to finish 7th after this race. With all respect to him, he's a great driver, but with the penalties, I think it's inevitable.
And yeah, you can see the time dropping little by little throughout the course of the lap.
And to be fair to him, he has a 7.4 second gap, so it's still not there.
Well, we pick up your race leader Vasilios working on the final lap of this quite exciting race for the most part. The back end just kicked out on him though. Vasilios though, he's got an 18-second lead over Lewis Marshall.
Very dominant race by the first Greek driver apart from Sandro to race in this league. So yeah, I think it's a good thing to see another Greek driver come into the league and actually be able to win.
And that gap, while we're watching Vasilios, that gap for Dion has actually shrunk. It's down now, down to 5. Jorge would have that position at the end of the race due to the time penalties. We see Vasilios is going to cross the line here, pick up. Oh, back end kicks out. He drifts it across the line.
But he wins no matter what.
Win. So we're going to pick up Dion
debut victory.
Quick. It's a debut victory for Vasilios. Maiden win, debut win. It's a good way to kick off the season.
And I think maybe, I'm not going to jinx it, but I think he deserves driver of the day, to be fair. I think he deserves more than driver of the day. That was an outstanding run from him. Very good.
Well, he was dominant in qualifying. He battled with Lewis Marshall. There was a little bit of a possible melee with Cameron Weston Edwards early in the race, but for the most part, a very dominating performance from Vasilios. And you see Jorge Carrera just kind of sneaking into that background of some of these shots for Dion Stalls. He's trying to hang on to the 7th position, but I don't think he's gonna. I think he's gonna be able to pull it off.
I think it's Dion should be very happy about 8th, though. He was involved in a collision on lap 1. He was down to, I think it was last place, and when the safety car came out, he benefited massively from that.
So we'll see what this finishing order is for.
No, wait. Dion has kept 7th.
I wonder if Jorge had more time penalties than Dion.
But there you have it. Maiden win, debut win. And yeah, he starts out the season with in a great way.
So that is Vasilios, that is your winner. Lewis Marshall second, and Nick Van Gelder back on the podium.
It's good to see him back up there. He's been missing for a couple of races, but I think he's deserved that one, definitely. So
we'll see what this finishing order looks like after today's adventurous race.
So yeah.
So Vasilios,
there was a lot of penalties today.
Lewis Marshall, Nick Van Gelder, Rene van der Stap, Sandro Dulius, Foons van Houten, Dion Stahl gets to hang on to 7th, Jorge Carrera 8th, Juro Marusic is 9th, and Jan Holm does get to pick up a point in 10th. Ivan Brito, Sam, who we've been talking to, Louis Quinlan, and Cameron Weston Edwards round out your non-points paying drivers.
Yeah.
So quite an adventurous race today.
I would say so. And I would also say I do not believe that Vasilios is going to be this dominant when we get onto the other tracks. I think other drivers will pick up the pace. I think he benefited from the chaos that evolved around a dry qualifying and then a surprising wet race. So I think when we come to the next race, which is which race is that?
Well, the next race is in Austria, which is going to be interesting regardless. Austria is always an interesting track because of the track limits and just the simplicity, but also the technicality of what Austria is. I mean, it's two left-handers. The rest of it's right-handers. Yeah. It's high speed with very, just about every corner is a braking zone and a passing zone.
But also the very close resemblance to Hockenheim, that with the first turn, it could pose some trouble. Yeah.
Well, turns 1 and turn 2 at Austria always pose a problem when you have that many drivers heading into a corner. So.
But then again, we do know that the drivers here, they respect each other, even though there's a little bit of grinding tires against each other. We still see that it's very fair when it comes to the end.
So the next race will be in Austria in, I imagine, 2 weeks. I don't have the new schedule. I have the old schedule.
Let me just update you on that one, because it is, in fact, the new schedule is on our website. So if you want to go check that out, you can do that. I imagine that the link is going to be in the description. It's a wild guess, but I think it might be.
So yeah, next race is at Austria, and certainly want to thank Sam for joining us after his unfortunate turn of events today. But this has been SRL. This has been the season kickoff. This has been highly anticipated, and it was a great race for Vasilios in the top 3. And certainly like, subscribe, and comment to the SRL YouTube page. Check out their websites. And for more racing action, we've got the GTE season, which will be coming up here in the next couple months. That'll be fun. I'll actually get to partake in racing for SRL, and as opposed to commentate. And check out KAMIKAZE-FOX on YouTube. That's me. Like, subscribe, and comment. I'll be racing for IRL later today in the Gran Turismo GT3 League. And again, IRL is kicking off their F1 season tomorrow, so you can tune in for that on the IRL YouTube page. And
Indeed.
This has been SRL, and again, there are many SRL leagues, but there's only one Sandro Racing League. And so, we will see you guys at the next round.
Which is the 17th of November in Austria. So
November 7th.
We'll see you there.